ओडिशा हाईकोर्ट आनुकूल्य कटक स्थित ओडिशा जुडिशियल एकाडेमी परिसर में डिजिटाइजेशन पेपरलेस कोर्ट एवं इनिशिएटिव शीर्षक जातीय सम्मेलन चली सीधासख आपन को जोड़ुची सम्मेलन सहित 2 दिनिया जातीय सम्मेलन में सुप्रीमकोर्ट प्रधान विचारपति जस्टिस डीवाई चंद्रचूड़ जोग देइछन।
Shri Pravash Prashun Pandey, Joint Secretary, Department of Justice, Shri Ashok Kumar, Department of Justice, Director, and the E-Committee. We have Ms. Salina Nair, Member Processes, Dr. Parvinder Singh Arora, Member Project Management, Shri Ashish Shirodamkar, Member Systems, Arul Mohi Shelvi, Member Human Resources. We also have Mr. Rajiv Sharma and Ms. Anju Arora from the Chief Justice of India's Secretariat. My colleagues and I also welcome the 30 district judges of Odisha and one nodal officer from each of the 30 districts of Odisha who are present here at our special request to attend the conference and gain from its deliberations. My colleagues and I welcome all the CPCs from the various high courts who are the backroom boys who script and dialogue all that we have to say at the national conference, the presentations we are going to make here in the next 2 days. We welcome Shri Sunil Bansal, the Director General of Police, Odisha, Shri S.K. Priyadashi, the Commissioner of Police, Dr. Chayani, the Collector Cuttack. As far as my recollection goes, the last national conference of the IT committees was held in Lucknow more than 6 years ago. The changes witnessed in the judiciary as a result of several ICT initiatives received a great fillip with the COVID-19 pandemic. Virtual hearings, live streaming, e-filing, paperless courts, digitization of court records are now no longer new initiatives. They have been launched in varying degrees across the high courts and even in some of the district courts in the states with a reasonable degree of success. No doubt it's a work in progress, but with the union government being most liberal in its financial support to the phase 3 of the e-courts project, the transformation would expectedly be complete in the near future. How we should go about the exercise of completing the task is one of the key points for discussion in this national conference. We are here to share our experiences, our achievements and best practices, our plans, and the challenges that we face in the various high courts in the implementation of such plans. It is expected that we also share the problems and challenges we face and what we do to overcome them. This is important because it is by now evident that the support of the state governments to the various high courts for the e-initiatives is not consistent across the board. Here I must acknowledge that the government of Odisha has been extremely supportive of the initiatives of our High Court. We look forward to the sessions where, apart from the High Courts making their presentations, we will also benefit from the insights of the E-Committee, the Ministry of Law and Justice, the NIC, experts like Dr. Dinesh Katre and Dr. Vivek Raghavan. I would not dwell too much on what we should deliberate upon, except to flag a few issues that I think we should keep in mind. The first is data integrity and security. Even while we wait a comprehensive data protection law to be enacted, we must put our heads together, of course with the help of experts, to frame a comprehensive judicial data security policy, particularly since we are generating vast amounts of data on a daily and maybe even an hourly basis, and particularly since much of this data concerns the litigants in our courts and their most private and confidential details of their lives. It is important that while maintaining the integrity and security of the data and storing it on media that we control, we decide who can use it and how. For instance, we've had live streaming of several of the high courts in the country. And many of us have noticed in the YouTube clips of those live streamings being used by various actors, many of them private players, and with captions like angry judge and wonderful arguments and so on. But we must learn to control the use of such clips by users of the internet. And likewise, Gmail. Many of us still continue to use Gmail, which is a private service provider. So these are clearly matters of concern that we need to address. Much of it has been set out in the action plan. We must get down to the nuts and bolts of it. Also, Jeffrey Hinton, who last week resigned as Vice President of Google, has cautioned us about the uses of artificial intelligence. Even as we use it for our work of translation of judgments into regional languages, we may perhaps have to undertake a robust and intensive consultation with experts before we think of deploying AI for other purposes. I know there is already a committee set up by the Chief Justice of India for this purpose. The second issue is how we become self-reliant as an institution as far as the deployment of ITC for our work is concerned. We are far too dependent on external agencies for both our hardware and software, which can soon get and is in fact getting outdated at an alarming rate. I must acknowledge here that the services rendered to the judiciary for the last 2 decades and more by the National Informatics Center. But I would think that this is the time where we should think of constituting our own resource in this area. Concerns of redundancy and interoperability and continuity in preservation, use, and retrieval of data, all of this needs to be addressed. I mentioned a committee of which Justice Bindal was the chair, and 2 of my colleagues in the High Court and 1 of his colleagues in the Punjab and Haryana High Court. We submitted a report in 2018 on electronic evidence, storage, use, retrieval, and preservation and authenticating of electronic evidence. That is some report that will need to be examined in some depth by both the Ministry of Law and Justice and us. How can we build our core competencies in the area? How can we be more self-reliant as far as the internet connectivity and bandwidth availability across the country is concerned? Friends from the Northeast have pointed out how the internet connectivity is not uniform across the Northeast, and this needs to be addressed. Then the issue of training. I'm hoping that in these 2 days, we also do some backroom chatting so that we can share our experiences of training of judicial officers, lawyers, law clerks, and court staff. If the mission of transformation of the judiciary through ICT initiatives has to take place at a uniform rate, then some of these training modules need to be standardized. It has been 18 years since the first National Action Plan was rolled out by the E-Committee. The IT committees in the various high courts, as well as the E-Committee in the Supreme Court of India, has been very fortunate in the past 2 decades to have had judges with exceptional competence and vision whose unstinting efforts have brought us this far. We need to build on those efforts and then pass on the baton to the next generation of judges. A conference like this will go a long way in setting those goals. As our Chief Justice of India never tires of reminding us, all these measures ultimately must deliver better quality justice to the litigants and make the courts more accessible and user-friendly for everyone. It must make them more accountable and transparent in their functioning. It must lead us to delivering better on the progress towards equal and fair justice. While adding to Gandhiji's talisman, we would do well in the context of ICT initiatives to align them with our core constitutional values and beliefs, including the right to privacy, so well articulated by the Supreme Court of India in the Puttaswamy judgment. I wish this conference all success. I hope my dedicated team of officers led by the Registrar General of the High Court of Odisha, the registrars and other officials, and the huge army of staff have been able to cater to all your comforts. If there are any shortcomings, the responsibility lies with me. You will kindly excuse us for that. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for the warm and heartfelt welcome extended to our honorable guests and esteemed dignitaries, and highlighting the issues to be dealt with in the course of this national conference. Under the able guidance of His Lordship, Odisha State Judiciary has taken clear and concrete steps in the arena of digitization, paperless courts, and e-initiatives. It is my privilege to now request His Lordship, Honorable Shri Justice Rajesh Bindal, Judge, Supreme Court of India, to kindly address this august gathering.
Honorable Dr. D.Y. Chanchud, Chief Justice of India, Dr. S. Muralidhar, Chief Justice of Odisha High Court, Judges of Odisha High Court, Justice Bipin Sanghi, Chief Justice Uttarakhand High Court, Justice Tilok Singh Chauhan, Acting Chief Justice of Himachal High Court, other honorable judges from all different high courts who are heading or are members of the computer committees there, officers of the Registry of the Supreme Court, members from the Department of Justice, members of the E-Committee of the Supreme Court, chairpersons of the district computer committees, CPCs from all different high courts, nodal officers for digitization, Advocate General and Solicitor General, and office bearers of the Odisha High Court Bar Association, officers from the OCAC, Bhubaneswar, other judicial officers from Odisha, police officers, print and mass media, ladies and gentlemen. Namaskar, very good morning to all present. I think this is the most welcome initiative taken by Dr. Muralidhar. We should all thank to him and his team for making this possible. First conference was held in Lucknow in 2017. I think many of us may have attended that, and I was lucky to be there at that time. And the second was in Chandigarh in 2018. Thereafter, there is a gap of 4 years. 2 years, yes, we have lost in COVID, but still there were online meetings during that period also, but not at this level. But what I think is that this type of conference should be an annual affair so that we have the opportunity to share our experiences, and the discussion on way forward should be there, as is one of the sessions in this conference also. As Brother Muralidhar said that fortunately I had the opportunity to work in 4 high courts. And what my experience shows that all the high courts are not at the same level in computerization. In fact, this is the difficulty, one of the, I think, major difficulty in proceeding further in this process. Unless we are at the same page, we can't proceed further because the balance is not there. The reason may be that there is shortage of funds, and Odisha, Brother Muralidhar said there is no shortage of funds. In some states, yes, it is not there. In Punjab, Haryana also at that time, we hardly faced the problem of shortage of funds, but in some states it is there. So that has to be sorted out. But what we have experienced is that a lot of funds sent by the E-Committee also are not utilized by the High Court, despite repeated reminders from them. So this is one part. I think all the chairpersons and members of the E-Committees in the different high courts have to be a little proactive. And if you are proactive, the way forward is available, because guidance from the E-Committee is always available. This is, I think, we should see. And in Odisha, if you go and visit the center where the digitization is being done, or their museum, you will find that how a leadership can make a change. So this is, I think, we should take this idea from. Now, another problem which I saw was that we have the officers from NIC who are taking care of our system. Brother Muralidhar had touched that. Why not have our own cadre or our own system for that, instead of depending on NIC? My experience in J&K shows that we had an officer from NIC who was there in the court for 17 years. And in fact was not working. That's why a lot of projects could not be taken care of. When we got him changed, another officer came who did not have the domain knowledge at all of the judicial system. So firstly, we had to teach him for about 6 months, and then thereafter he could take up the issues. So this is one major problem, I think, which we are facing. Because when some officer is changed, he will not have domain knowledge of computerization in the courts. He will have to learn a lot of things, and then only he can deliver. So this is, I think, one of the major area, how we sort it out. We need to see that. Now today's conference, we see the title given is Digitization, Paperless Courts and E-Initiatives. There are 3 parts now: digitization, paperless court, E-Initiative. So what is meant by digitization? Digitization is only to convert your hard copies to soft copies. There are a lot of benefits. I'll not go into this. We all normally read them or know all of them, space and all that. So use of that data, transmission also. But if you see the NJDG website, because transmission of record is also one of the major issues. The cases are taken to the higher court. About 8% cases are delayed only because of transmission of data. Now, if you have the digitized records, the transmission is very easy and it saves a lot of time. And in one of the case, probably Supreme Court had to direct the high courts to do it very fast, though there are directives or guidance from the E committee, but recent judgment also it had to be observed. And in the Supreme Court, what we see is that whenever we summon the soft copy of the record, we immediately supply the same to the counsels also, so that there is better assistance of the counsel if he has the record of the case, so there is nothing wrong in this. I think we need to move from digitization to digitalization. And the meaning of that, which I read, is the quality use of that data, intelligent use of that data. Because we have a lot of dump of our data after scanning or lot of issues. Now, the result of that intelligent use may be we have better analysis, better planning, artificial intelligence. Yes, there are a lot of issues which are reading in artificial intelligence. The European Union has come out with law or something. The day before yesterday, I read probably the president of US had called the top guns of IT, the Google, and I think Microsoft also for a meeting on AI. There are a lot of issues going on because this is taking over like anything, because there are a lot of chances of misuse of all this. And efficiency, yes, it will be increased. So how we do it, like bunching, categorization, there are a lot of benefits we can have, because in this session, much time is not there, so I will not go into that detail. But we have to move toward digitalization in that. And what we see, this is being used like insurance also, airline ticketing, you see the dynamic. And a lot of government schools have thought that this is already being used. We had used this AI part for automation in the virtual courts. Still, it is not there throughout the country. So that shows the initiative part is little less. We have this in 19 states. Benefit is there because in Allahabad also we started it. The big state, 75 districts. So we had only 10 virtual courts for traffic challans. So this is how the judicial officers can be saved from being busy in this traffic part only and do the other work. The data shows that we received about 3 crore challans in that system, out of which very small number, 2.08 lakh 8 were contested. And a fine of 397 crores was paid. This is a huge amount. And it was paid only in 36.73 lakh cases. So rest 2.30 crore cases, the fine was not paid, though the challans were settled by the officer. Now, what I learned is that the details of all these cases which were settled were sent to the RTO. Now, the problem is the RTO will not have the details of all those vehicles. They may not have the mobile number or email ID. The vehicles may have been registered long back. I think this also has to be taken care of. Unless the challan amount is paid, we track the owner of the vehicle. There is no use of it because people are happy. Challan is there, but nothing. A lot of these challans come from CCTV cameras on the traffic light. In fact, where they don't have anything, details. It's not manual challaning. But I was thinking, I had a word with Mr. Ashish also. We need to integrate our system or take the help of IRDA. Because IRDA insurance part is the annual affair of any vehicle. And at that time, we all know, we have a lot of vehicles ourselves. Mobile number and email ID of every owner of the vehicle is taken. So there you have the current data. If you integrate the system and take help from them, I think we can execute this better. So this is one thing which I thought of, we should do it. And another problem, which in J&K, we had developed a